Well, welcome to My Road Australia. Mike, can you tell us what you do, who you represent, what company you work for?
I'm training and development with RACV Drive School. Have been for about the last 15 years now. And of course, I'm involved in the development in terms of a coaching role, delivering to 120 driver trainers and also the industry through the association.
How do you find it? What are the challenges?
Well, it is very challenging because if we look at road safety, the easiest thing to do is change technology to impart a benefit within road safety, whereas driver behaviour is one of the more challenging roles, and therefore they'll easily go for engineering rather than driver behaviour. And
we're here at this ADTA conference today. How do you find that and the information that's been given to us so far?
Well, the information is first class, especially from Mike Regan, and of course we've got Robin Seymour and developing the consequences to behaviour in terms of all our programs, whereby the way we train and the outcomes that are obviously going to develop as they become more experienced within their P-plate years. And we know the causal effects of the day they get their licence, their crash rate goes up 20 to 30 times over and above what they were as a learner driver. So clearly the industry has to adapt and change for, number one, the developing technologies, but also in terms of driver behaviour.
Have we got anything in place? Have you got anything in place through RACV for more experienced drivers? Like, for example, I noticed one of the graphs that was shown there, they had the obviously the learners, which were the safest drivers, and they're somebody given the keys to drive, and you've got the P drivers in their first 6 months, which, as you said there, goes up 20 to 30 times. But on one of the graphs, they also had that after 5, 7, 8 years, it still plateaus quite high. So, I mean, they've been off their Ps. So, what's your opinion of that? What do you think we can do, and have we got anything in place for that?
I think the first 4 years in terms of P-plate crash stats is still fairly high. It does take 7 years to become where you and I are. However, it's the first couple of years where P-platers only represent 12% of the driving population, but they have 25% of the serious crashes and injury stats. In terms of our programs, the AAA through Driver Safety Services, I guess, have developed the Keys to Drive program. It's a federally funded program, and that really is implemented to try and change that behavioural concept of, and the behaviour is going to come, or should come, through consequence and ramification to all those individual behaviours. So therefore, in terms of trying to change attitude, that's reasonably easy, but then behaviour is those internalisations where, and the easiest way to describe it would be, what we do know is that if they do have a crash, it's not recidivative. They don't actually keep on repeating those things, okay? So therefore it does then change behaviour, and what we have to do is put in ramification and consequence to those behaviours when they are actually on their L's, so then that transfers into their P's. So what we have to do is try and develop systems and tasks, I guess, that will develop P-plate situations within their L-plate years, so they're learning those as they come along, rather than just getting a test or passing a test and then learning them from that stage, because nothing was actually covered in their L-plate years apart from passing the test criteria.
Do you see them being retested at a later stage? Do you think that might be a good idea, Michael? I mean, for example, like you said, they get their licence and then they have their problem. Is it worth retesting them maybe after 5 or 6 years, or maybe after 10 years, 20 years? Because there's people out there that have had their licence for years, and cars are changing, as Mike said. Things are changing. How are they being educated in that?
I personally think that we should be working as a preventative measure rather than as a reactive measure. So certainly these things should be put in place as preventative in their L years rather than finding out in their P years. Certainly as technology changes, and it's obviously changing rapidly in terms of engineering, those sort of things probably through, I'm not too sure what sort of programs, but certainly in the fleet industry, in terms of company fleet drivers, that's now very much covered.
Okay. RACV instructors, how do they rate in comparison, do you believe, in the industry to other driving instructors?
Well, RACV themselves put in professional development within, and they have the resources to deliver that. If you're siloed in terms of a one-off or just in a very, very small organisation, number one, you don't have the resources. Number two, you don't have the capability to get that information and then disperse it throughout your team, so to speak, or on an individual basis, you've actually got to then do that yourself, and it becomes a time issue and a need issue. They might think they need that because all as they may be doing is just worrying about getting their students to pass a test rather than develop driver safety outcomes.
To finish off, Michael, what do you think is the best thing we can do as driving instructors to help kids be safe on the road?
Certainly get beyond the test. So in other words, your target should be harm-free rather than just passing the test. I think we have to develop a culture of zero harm and zero crash within our training, because if we have that, or think of the consequences of not having it, that means you're developing someone to have a crash or die. So therefore it should be on our mind that every student that comes through our training is crash-free and harm-free and will live, obviously.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Michael.
Pleasure.